Better late than never, I suppose. I've been sleeping on this gold. Now I'm woken, boy, I'm fucking on it. Pulling shit together with my bro. Yeah, he keep me on my toes. So we cooking cause we fucking hungry. She just want a nigga with some goals. But this world so fucking cold. When she find love, won't know how to hold it. I've been feeling anxious on the low. I just leave it to the most. Life's a gamble and we never folding. Better yet, I welcome every wager and he take us from a line. Watch me make your money mine. Someone told me time is money, but see, really, that's a lie. Cause that dollar, I can get it back, but seconds they go by. But don't get it twisted, I'm with it if it's by the check. I need compensation and all deposits come direct. Baby needed some shoes, lady need her a house, but I ain't counting the seconds, I'm just making it count. I woke up and decided to let them talk and I'ma be about it. And through it all, girl, I'ma be a rider for you. That's why I'm out here trying to change a dollar to two. And for the record, it's way more deep than what you expected. I'm playing chess when they saying king me, I'm yelling check me. I'm moving with a purpose and it's such a blessing. And in the end, it's worth it cause there's no regretting. I'm having a breakthrough. Break rules, yeah, that's something that the greats do. Ooh, don't ever let the evil take you. Yeah, I'm at the top and it's a break. Get it into the last straw, last straw. You know today could be your last call, last call. I don't ask permission, I blast off, blast off. Any and everything's a go. Any and everything, yeah. I'm living proof when you doing you. They gon' love you or they won't. That's for them to choose. It don't matter if they don't. Lord help them, I try myself, but they out of reach. I count my blessings and say my prayers before I go to sleep. I get it, come home and shower, rinse and repeat. And cutting ties with any nigga dragging his feet. I'm cutting a line a couple times, I'm trying to eat. When you align, you never mind opinion and sheet. You wanna know that struggle, look into my eyes. You wanna know that pain, look into my eyes. You wanna know that feeling that you feel when it's a million reasons telling you to quit, but instead you rise. You're guaranteed to lose if you never try. And this is something I refuse to the day I die. Yeah, I find a purpose and it's such a blessing. And in the end it's worth it cause it's no regret. I'm having a breakthrough. Break rules, yeah, that's something that the greats do. Ooh, don't ever let the evil take you. Yeah, I'm at the top and it's a break. Get it into the last straw, last straw. You know today could be your last call, last call. I don't ask permission, I blast off, blast off. Any and everything's a go. Any and everything, yeah. I'm having a breakthrough. Break rules, yeah, that's something that the greats do. Ooh, don't ever let the evil take you. Yeah, I'm at the top and it's a break. Get it into the last straw, last straw. You know today could be your last call, last call. I don't ask permission, I blast off, blast off. Any and everything's a go. Any and everything's a go.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Friday edition. That's right, Daddy's back. The podcast is back, and I did not update anything over here. So let me do this real quick.
Daddy's back.
It is rusty over here. Rusty. Hope everybody had a good week so far. I had a wonderful weekend down with the family. Did I update this? I don't think so. 4 or 5. Actually, that's right. Jeremy, is our circa record right? 31, 22, and 2?
It is not right.
Is it 32, 22, and 2?
No, you didn't update it from Monday, I don't think. We were 56% going into
I know we're like close to 60
this week. Yeah, so we should be at
I'll wait.
4-1. We should be 35, 23, and 2.
That would be correct, but I'm going to wait for the confirmation over here just to make sure that everything is A-OK. Jeffrey got a little haircut this morning, trying to look good for the podcast today. Feeling good? Yeah, he's been up early. He's got a little something going.
I went without the hard part this time. You know, normally I get this little line cut into my head, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna forego that this time, because sometimes it gets so deep that when the hair starts to grow over, it becomes too, I don't know what the word is, but
I don't have that problem.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
No, I don't. I really don't have to worry about it at all.
How was your, speaking of, how was your vacation? How was your Thanksgiving? How did everything go?
It was busy, It was good. It's always good to see the parents, hang out down there for a little while. I got to see one of our other friends, Mr. Scott Swintek, down there. He's doing good.
How are they doing?
Yeah, he's doing real good. Doing real good. Other than that, it's just been a regular, good old hootenanny.
When'd you get back?
I got back Wednesday. We stopped at our normal little spot down there. We always stop at this little Italian place called Mario's. And it's like all authentic Italian. So we bring our giant cooler, our 4-foot big igloo cooler, and just kind of stock up over there. So we got a lot of stuff going on there. It's pretty nice. Good stuff here, but we do have a lot to talk about here. Go ahead. Yeah, she's always posting.
I saw your wife post something about all the Italian goods that she was able to procure.
The wind blows a different direction. She feels the need to post it and tell all the world, be like, "Oh, hey, guess in case you didn't know it, the wind just changed from east to west." Hey, I'm not a big fan of putting I'm not a big fan of putting the entire life on social media. I think I have grown past that, but I do get these flashbacks on Facebook from like 10 years ago, where it says, like Tyson Thomas is doing this, blah blah. Like I'm like, what was I doing, man? But that was back when it was, it was still new, right? It was still new. I don't know. And then always posting song lyrics. That was always the one. Everybody's like, "Are you okay?" No, it's just a song lyric. Oh, okay, great, good times.
Well, before you just change your song on your MySpace page, and that was like how your mood was. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit different now. You gotta actually post Taylor Swift lyrics and say I'm the problem, it's me. I do want to give a quick shout out to the Gilberts. Leah Gilbert just got married this past week in the Bahamas, so I know a bunch of our extended family, the Kitty O'Shea's family, is down there celebrating, and just nothing but lifelong happiness and love. And shout out to them.
Me and Bianca were talking about that. Who the hell's running the store?
Oh, it's Chad's over there. Holding it down. Obviously not everybody is staying the entire time.
Yeah, Marcus, there's definitely some sound issues, bro. We're working it out. We're working a whole new platform here. Sometime when I can, get Jeffrey to, committed to test it out, we'll, it's also cigarettes in the morning, gotta have a morning smoke, that morning smoker's raspiness.
Just calling out Jeremy, like, jeez.
He is. Well, let's get into it. We got a lot to talk about. The puppies, I'm taking the puppies out to the farm today. They're getting a little training. We're going to see if I can, whip them into shape. So
Mike Lisa or?
No, another guy.
Okay. All right, cool.
Let's get into it. Let's talk a little college football. We had quite an amazing weekend over the past weekend. I know that I'm sure you guys talked about it on Monday. I know that there wasn't a show Wednesday.
No show on Wednesday.
There might have been a little shenanigans Tuesday night.
There was a situation where I had my normal amount to drink, and then somebody was like, let's just go over for one. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll go over to Patty Wagons for one drink. And that turned into somebody handing me a double shot of Fireball, which I did. And then when I was about to leave, somebody was like, oh, just one more shot, Jeff. I'm like, all right, whatever. And they handed me a double shot of JMO. And that was probably the wrong decision at that moment.
And this is why I Houdini.
Can we talk about your Houdini?
I didn't Houdini. I said goodbye to everybody.
You did not say goodbye to me.
You left.
I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, I go, "Where's Tyson?"
You didn't.
And they go, "Oh,
you didn't say anything. You just
left." And I said, "What do you mean he paid his check and left?" And they go, "Oh, he paid his check and he left. He went home." And I go, "Well, why would he go home?" And then I text you. I said, "Where are you at? You left?" And you go, "I'm in the bathroom." And I said, "Oh, okay. So I'll wait for him to come back out." And
there's no shot. There's no shot that when I said that I was in the bathroom that you thought I was in the bathroom. There's no shot. I refuse to believe that.
I thought there was no shot that you would leave without saying goodbye, especially in our rivalry game that we wait all year for to be able to watch together.
Yeah.
And no warning about you leaving. You just did what you did.
Well, I had time to pay my check, say goodbye to everybody there, and then leisurely stroll out of the building. I think that was plenty of time for you to come back and do whatever it is that you were doing. I can't help it that you chose to drop a deuce at Kitty's in the middle of the commercial break.
It's halftime. What do you mean? When else am I supposed to do it?
I can't believe you drop a deuce of kitties anyway, but that's a whole nother debate. But
Every
yeah,
night I drop, I don't care, it
and
doesn't matter.
it was a good thing that I did because I came home to my smoker not working, to my turkey that I was taking to my parents, it's completely stalled out. I had to take the entire smoker apart, reassemble it, reprime it, and get it going, and then it actually did not work. It was bad. I actually got the turkey down to my parents after resting it, doing all this, and it still wasn't even done. So yeah, it was quite the debacle. But yes, Marcus. Go ahead.
Decisions. I get it. What was what's y'all's thoughts about the Iron Bowl ending? I mean, I thought it was incredible. Good for Alabama. Listen,
well, let's just get into it. Let's just get into it.
New Mexico State the week before. So I mean, I guess you're gonna say it's a trap spot. I don't know. I know it's the Iron Bowl, right? But if we're gonna hold everybody accountable for the same thing, like, and we're gonna say that Florida State barely squeaked by Florida in the swamp, I just don't understand the thing of, oh, Alabama had a good win against Auburn. To me, that doesn't make sense.
I don't know. I don't. Who's calling it a good win?
Well, I just feel like the national media right now, there's been a lot of things that have been talked about, and I'm very fired up today. I'm just going to say that.
Well, let's get into it. Let's get into NCAA football here. We have a lot to talk about. I do have an appointment, so this cannot be a super long podcast, as normal, but we will take it as we go. Let's start off with championship weekend. And let's start off, first of all, we have the Oregon Ducks versus the Washington Huskies. Now, this is one thing that I saw when it comes to the playoffs, right? And everybody's already talking about how Washington is just out. They're giving Washington absolutely zero chance against Oregon. They've already crowned the Ducks the Pac-12 championship, and now they're fighting on whether or not the Ducks can get in. I'm going to sit back here and say I do expect the Ducks to win, but this is why they play the football game. Washington has every opportunity to win this game, and I sure hope they do, because it will throw a complete wrinkle in everything else as well. But
I think the best thing for the committee is for Washington to win the football game. If we're going to be honest, the committee has to be rooting for Washington right here, right? Because if Washington wins their undefeated Pac-12 champion, they're in, and they beat Oregon twice. So that's what the committee wants. Now, the fact that they've hung this number at 9.5 to me is egregious. And if you're going to tell me that Washington at number 3 playing Oregon this week is going to be a 10-point dog, how are they ranked ahead of all these other teams? How does that make sense to me? And if we're going to talk about everything on the field is what actually matters, okay, everything on the field is what actually matters, right? But now these guys, Kirk Herbstreit, Reese Davis, Paul Feinbaum, who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting one of you bullshit assholes out there that always has something to say and sucks at their job. You guys just sit there and say, oh, it shouldn't be who's the most deserving. It should be who's the 4 best teams, right? Well, you guys are full of shit, dude, because if that's the case, let's just take the 4 best recruiting classes that we can, and we'll put those 4 teams in the playoff. How about that? Oh, but we can't because, let's see, Texas A&M is one of the 4 best recruiting classes, and they're not even bowl eligible. So your arguments are absolutely terrible. Listen, 9.5 is way too many points to me. I'll be on Washington plus 9.5 here. I'll probably sprinkle in the money line as well too, just because it's a little enticing.
And we're going to get into this bowl breakdown here and all of this analysts in just one second here. So Oklahoma State going to play Texas for the last Big 12 for Texas, and there obviously Texas is just favored by 15 here. It is what it is. I mean, it is what it is. Let's get to the more important games here. Georgia, Alabama, the game that could send a big shockwave through the college playoffs. And I'm just going to talk about these two real quick, and then we're going to talk about everything in its entirety because all of these games are going to go into the college playoffs here. Louisville at Florida State favored by 1.5, and Michigan heading to the booming defense of the Iowa Hawkeyes, favored by 22. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about Georgia, Alabama first. Georgia has been very suspect. Alabama's been very suspect. We just talked about the Iron Bowl game that they should have lost. There's no way that 4th and 31, 4th and goal, gets converted on the last play of the game. Absolutely lucky. They should never be in this situation, but here they are. They are in this situation. Alabama lost to Texas. That is their only loss. So, and therefore, Alabama, I do believe, and I don't know why I didn't put the rankings, is ranked behind Texas. 8 and 7. So then you go into Alabama goes in and beats Georgia. We're going to play hypothetical here. Georgia goes in and loses against Alabama in the SEC championship. There's no way that you're leaving an SEC champion out of the playoffs. That's just my personal opinion. Now, then you go back and look at, well, Georgia only lost to the SEC champion. So how do you leave Georgia out? But then you have Texas, who would be the Big 12 champion, who beat the SEC champion. How do you leave them out? And unfortunately, then you have Florida State, who is the ACC champion.
Well, not yet. We have to play a football game first, and that line.
And that is going to be. I honestly, I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be a very close game. I hope you guys pull it out, but I think it's going to be close. But let's be honest here. We talked about this, and when it comes to the committee and it comes to picking things, while records are one thing, obviously, if Travis Jordan is playing for the Florida State Seminoles, Jordan Travis, I'm sorry, elevates that team. Then you had your backup quarterback, who had I would say a decent game against Florida. He showed up. But as you pointed out, that quarterback could also be in concussion protocol for the Louisville game. So let's take this out and let's just say Florida State does win that game. All right. Then you have Michigan and Iowa. We all expect Michigan to win, right? So yeah. Michigan's in.
Iowa's team total for the first half is 0.5 point. So they score anything, you hit the team total.
So Michigan's in. We're just going to say this, okay? So this is going to be probably the sloppiest college playoff committee that I've seen. And this is why we've all been screaming for years that college playoffs need to be expanded. So then we can have this conversation about the 10th through 14th teams and who didn't get in there. But at least we know when we get to that 12 that all of the major teams that we really feel can compete will be in the playoffs. This is going to be very, very sloppy. Very, very sloppy. If Georgia does not beat out, if it could be also very clean. It could be. If Washington beats Oregon, they're in. If Georgia beats Alabama, they're in. Michigan beats Iowa, they're in. Texas beats Oklahoma State. Florida beats Louisville. There's a problem. Is Texas going to jump Florida State and get into the playoffs?
We're talking about a Texas team who, in recent weeks, and this is one of my arguments too, is that Texas in recent weeks has struggled on the likes of TCU and Kansas State and Houston and all these teams that they've barely won by one score. But yet we're going to hold other people to a different standard. Right now, I'll give this to Texas. Texas has the most wins against bowl-eligible teams in the country this year. Number 2 is Florida State. So we're going to give Florida State shit for playing a close game against Boston College on a red bandana game in BC at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, that's fine. Well, what about Alabama's close win that they had against USF? And when Texas beat Alabama is when Alabama was in their what quarterback are we going to play phase, and they had like their third string in against USF. Milroe wasn't even activated that game, I want to say. So there's a lot of things that are going into this that are just complete SEC bias and bullshit, I feel like. Listen,
well,
Georgia,
I mean,
we've seen some chinks in the armor. They've struggled against running quarterbacks this year. So does Alabama have a shot? Absolutely. Does the Alabama team that showed up against Auburn last week have a shot? Probably not. I do think Georgia will win this football game. This will put everything to bed. Alabama, listen, Milroe.
Well, it'll put Alabama to bed, but it still won't. It still won't put that fourth position to bed.
Why would what? So why do you think Texas would jump us? Texas
I don't.
Oklahoma, who lost to Kansas. Oklahoma, who struggled against UCF. Oklahoma, who lost to Oklahoma State. All these other games that they've played tight as well too. Why does that move them ahead of an undefeated Florida State team?
Okay, first of all, you're saying that I think that they're going to jump. I'm telling you that the college football playoff is full of fuckeries. And Texas has more money than Florida State. And so if you don't think that there's a backdoor envelope happening somewhere to get Texas into these playoffs.
I think there's already been a precedent set. And if they really wanted to do it, they would have put Texas at 5 instead of putting Ohio State at 5. The fact that they put Ohio State at 5, And they
Well,
put
let,
Texas.
let me just ask you this question right here. So you have Louisville,
Ohio State at 6 or whatever. Yeah.
Louisville going to Florida State for the ACC championship, correct?
No, we play in Charlotte. It's a neutral site.
Okay, neutral
just
site.
like every
Okay.
championship, and it's going to be 60 degrees and raining.
Okay. And Florida State is only favored by 1.5. Okay.
It was 3. The line has moved down 1.5 because supposedly Tate Rodemaker is still in concussion protocol. Who knows how much of this is actually whatever. They've seen Brock Glenn taking first team snaps, and supposedly Tate isn't officially cleared for full contact yet.
Good.
So
let me ask you this. If Texas were to play Florida State on the same field right now,
yes,
do you feel Florida State has a legit shot to beat Texas?
we have a legitimate shot to beat anybody in the country. For the simple fact that we give up 16 points a game. For the simple fact that we're senior laden. We have amazing weapons top to bottom. As long as our offensive line is healthy, we had a few nicks and knacks here against Florida. But you want to talk about a team that has resolve, that went in and then they're playing their arch rival on the road with a backup quarterback. And that arch rival is right there within striking distance.
Who's
And they
also
play
playing a backup quarterback.
Tom Petty won't back that same backup quarterback who almost beat Missouri the week before, who's a top 10 team, who's a good notch on Georgia's resume. I don't want to fucking hear it.
Well, actually,
okay?
Graham Mertz was beating that team. And if Graham Mertz would have stayed in the game, they would have won.
Did Brown not come in and still right the ship and almost had you right there?
Almost
Yes.
as horseshoes and
At the
hand
end of the game?
grenades.
Okay, exactly. I agree. So wins matter then, right? So, but this same Florida State team that went in where Florida has a shot and they play Tom Petty, won't back down, and the lights turn off, and everybody's got their lights on, and yada, yada, yada. And the Florida Gators against that Florida State defense, -7 yards in the fourth quarter. We show up when it matters. We have resolve. We battle through adversity. We've done it all year. We're a second half team. We're the best second half team in the country. I'm done with the narrative. I'm so over it.
So, with that being said, the Texas-Florida State game, it played on a neutral field. Who's favored
Texas
to
will be set. Well, who cares? That's what Vegas has. What does that matter? You line up and you play the game. What was the line of TCU and Michigan last year when TCU played Michigan in the semifinal? And everybody said that TCU didn't deserve to be in. 10, 14, something like that. And Nick Saban is saying, on any neutral field, Alabama is ahead of TCU. It's bullshit.
Well, that's what I think is funny about what you said earlier as well, because you said Kirk Herbstreit, those guys are saying the best teams to come in. And when Nick Saban said that last year, Paul Feinbaum was one of the ones that said that, no, that's not how it works. And I do believe all of these other ones said that that's not how it works. So I found it interesting that you said that they've all changed their tone this year, and now they're like, well, the best teams to be playing.
They have.
And I don't know who they're really shitting on, to be perfectly honest with you, because there's no doubt
like they're shitting on this is what it feels like, and that's just locker board. It's bulletin board locker room material for us.
Well, I mean,
we appreciate it.
At the same token, I mean, we both sat here and talked about the ACC and the ACC schedule, and just how unorganized and just bad the ACC is, and we all know that the bias of the SEC. I mean, it's out there. SEC beats everybody. SEC is the top dog. SEC has won the championships over this year. So, of course, there's going to be a little bit of sway towards that SEC versus an ACC team. I think you have
the biggest television deal too on ESPN, which this is all.
Well, ACC is on ESPN as well.
Yeah, but we're little brother compared to SEC when it comes to money. Let's be honest.
Well, sometimes
it's not even close.
Someday you'll get with the big boys, but you're still competing down there at the ACC, and here we are. We're talking about national championship. So, I think if Florida State handles their business with Louisville, which I think is going to be a tough game, I really do. Louisville coming off that bad loss to Miami,
Kentucky,
which we both. I didn't consider it a bad loss because we've seen what that Kentucky team can do. So we actually thought that Kentucky definitely had a chance. 8.5 was gold.
Wins the game.
Yeah. So and I think that they're going to be playing for something as well. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think if Florida State wins and wins handedly, but see now here comes the style points, right? So if Florida State only wins by 3 against this team, is that going? I just think that the committee does whatever they want, and I think they're going to do whatever they want. And
if they leave out a major conference undefeated winner, if they leave them out of the playoff, then they should just burn the whole thing down.
They are next year.
We went to this system is so that we don't have to worry about the eye test. right? Because before it was the eye test and it went off of AP and coaches poll rankings and blah, blah, blah. So we implemented the BCS, which broke it down to analytics, but broke it down to numbers, strength of schedule, who have you played, common opponents, different things like that, right? So we've implemented all these things to take away the eye test. And now you're telling me that none of that should matter. It should only matter about the eye test.
Well, I mean, they said that before, though, and it didn't change. So
I'm going to say this.
That's just people talking.
Whether the quarterback is Tate Rodemaker or Brock Glenn, it does not matter. Florida State, we win by 10, baby. Let's go. Fucking roll tomorrow night.
That's what I said. You gotta knock it off yourself. So I'm just looking at the actual
the style points thing shouldn't matter in my opinion though. Like style points, who cares? You win an ACC championship, you go undefeated. You did everything you're supposed to do, and then you're gonna say because you suffered an injury to your team that nullifies you from being able to participate. Like when is that ever been a thing? Never. Ridiculous to me.
Well, I think like I said, I don't know about style points, but obviously, like I said, yeah, the Red Bandana game, which you still won. Clemson
which we won
was a one score game, which Clemson at that point in time was not good at all, but have turned it on throughout the year.
Now ranked, correct?
Now Wake Forest handled good. Pittsburgh.
Give me Ohio State signature.
Miami, maybe. I guess.
Which they scored a touchdown. The committee already said Florida State handled that game the entire game. Miami scored a fluke touchdown at the very end to make it look closer than it was. Give me Ohio State's signature win this year. They beat Notre Dame, right?
Well, you know my feeling about Ohio State.
Well, I'm just saying, like Ohio State's signature win was Notre Dame, right? Who just got
I wouldn't even call that
like Clemson. So like, what are we even? I mean, and same thing with Duke, and we beat Duke, who beat Notre Dame too. Like,
I think Ohio State's not in the picture. They're not in the picture. They are not going to make the top 4.
Okay, but what I'm saying is Ohio State is technically still ranked ahead of Texas and Alabama.
Correct.
So, I don't know. I could talk in circles about it all day.
I just think that at least this year is the last year that we'll have to do this.
I will say this. Florida State national championships, 1993, 2013. Is there a chance that we see?
No, I think the script is already written here. I think
see 2023. I'll tell you this: I took Florida State to win the national championship because they were plus 3,300. And if you're going to tell me that at plus 3,300 that I got right before the Florida game, if we beat Louisville, we should be in, correct? And then it would be a parlay of 3 games, right? And I don't think those 3 games would add up to a plus 3,300 on the money line. Now, I might be completely wrong. Florida State could be 10-point dogs to Georgia or Michigan or whoever. We got to see the way it plays out and the way everything happens. I would love to see a Big Ten team. I would love to see a Big Ten team.
If I think we can both agree, if Florida State loses against Louisville, they're out.
Of course.
Okay. So let's just handle business there. And as I'm looking at this, I said it before. I said it weeks ago. I think this is just hand scripted. I think Michigan wins the chip this year, and Jim Harbaugh rides off in the sunset into the NFL. I think that I think the script's there, man. I think the script is there.
I will take Florida State beating Michigan in the college football final to win the national championship, and Harbaugh leaves anyway.
Well, you would be playing Georgia first if you're the 4 seed.
Correct.
So that would be a tough schedule. So you're gonna knock off Georgia and Michigan back to back. I mean, if you win that would be a very good college playoffs win for you.
Also, my other thing is like you're gonna just discount like that. Our backup quarterback is that terrible. If you're a top 5 team in the country, which we have been the entire year, you don't think that your backup is like a 4 or 5-star recruit?
Correct, but he hasn't got the reps, and I think you can agree with that. I mean, we all know the quarterback position is the most important position in football, and not to say that the kid doesn't have the talent to do, but he's also coming in. He's basically, if you want to call it NFL standards, a rookie. Or, somebody that hasn't necessarily got the game plays to work out the kinks and get the reads down, to be that synergy with the wide receivers. And I think you saw that in the Florida game. He struggled a little bit in the first half, and then he came back the second half. I told you, I think during that game,
have the ball in the first half.
I told you in that game, he needs to hit one good, deep, complete pass. It was yardage, and that will spark him. They did that at the end of the first half. Mm-hmm. He got that huge play. 45 yards. They took him down. I think that was the spark. Once it gave him that confidence, then he was able to open up the playbook a little bit more in the second half, and that's when you saw what you saw. it's not necessarily a knock on the quarterback or a backup quarterback, but it's just more game reps. Just the same thing as when you expect, a quarterback that's drafted his first game in the NFL, you don't expect him to be very good. I mean, if he is, I mean, he is. But yeah, so very interesting college football scenario that's going on here. I'm happy that my team is finally out of it. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Florida's absolute shambles right now. We'll see what happens. Coaches have already been fired. We've lost plenty of people to the transfer portal. We knew that Florida was going to have a bunch of people leave just because of the recruiting class coming in. There's not going to be playing time. We had to make spots. My biggest one is ETN. That was a big one. But I will tell you that, Montrell Wilson, not Montrell Willis, Wilson? I don't know. The other guy that came over from the Raging Cajuns has played very, very well as well. I don't know. Like I told you in the pre-show, I think this is his big brother. Tell him you need to get out of there. He said that after game 1, he said that he needed to leave, go play for Prime, because, obviously things were better in Colorado. It is what
Prime's
it is.
got his own issues,
It is what it is, Gotta listen to Big Brother. It is what it is. We'll see what's coming on here. So speaking of rookie quarterbacks, right? We're picking up on this story that's coming out of Carolina, which to me is just one of the most weird things that I've ever seen. So we're talking about this draft day debacle here from the Carolina Panthers, and this report has continued to come out saying that the Carolina Panthers owner, David Tepper, confirmed the team was supposed to trade for the second overall pick to take C.J. Stroud because they believe the Texans would have taken Bryce Young with the number 1 pick. Tepper stated, everyone in the organization wanted Young. We were totally confident in that pick. But you end up with a number 1 pick. And you didn't take the pick that you wanted at number 2.
Doesn't make too much sense to me the way that he worded that or the way any of that went down. I'll also say this too. Let's be honest. Bryce Young in Houston is completely different than what Bryce Young is right now in Carolina. And the reason is because of coaching. And
I
because
agree.
And because of what's like CJ Stroud would probably be what Bryce Young is right now if CJ Stroud had gone to Carolina. But because they have a great structure in Houston, because they have a great offensive coordinator who works to CJ Stroud's strengths instead of his weaknesses. And like, if you look at, they asked Frank Reich, they said to Frank Reich, like right before he got fired, supposedly Tepper went in.
This is a story. Yep.
He's like, why are we not running more RPOs? And Frank Reich goes, that's not part of my offense. I'm not going to run RPOs. And it's like, cool, you're fired. Like the modern day, right? The way that you play football now is you gear your entire offense and your scheme around the talent that you have. You don't try to take the talent to mold to your scheme.
Unless you play for Chicago.
Listen.
Then you try to change your talent to what you want to see fit.
I also say this is why people like Bill Belichick and Ron Rivera and these guys are such dinosaurs, right? Is because they're not adapting. They're not adapting. They're thinking that what worked 10 years ago should work right now because that's football and that's the way it's always been done. And that's just not the case. You have to adapt with the times. If you're not growing, you're dying. And these are dying stars.
Speaking of dying stars, Deion Sanders named Sportsman of the Year. I'm going to need a definition of what they determine Sportsman of the Year is. Is that the impact on the game? Is that sportsmanship? I
don't know, man. It's such a joke, dude. Like,
how do you win 4 games? So you turned your program around. You won 3 more games than you did the year before. Your program, you fire your offensive coordinator. You've lost almost all of your good recruits. Your program is in absolute shambles again, but yet you're Sportsman of the Year.
And then they've just lost. He's also the guy who puts the blame onto his OC, right? Threw his OC under the bus, said it's your play calling. His OC now just got a head coaching job this past week, and they've lost, I want to say 4, maybe 5 recruits in the past week. It is a mass exodus right now from Colorado, and I don't know how they stop it. They're all skill players. They've lost 2 quarterbacks, a couple wide receivers, and a running back already. So I don't know if that's writing on the wall or whether it's because the OC is leaving, because they finally see what this is, and this is prime, all about prime most of the time. And look, congratulations to him. I'm glad he won the award. That's what it was all about.
I mean, we talked about Coach Prime on this, and I've turned my thoughts about Coach Prime and how he develops young kids and continues to try to uplift kids, and however he does that, and we thought he did a good job with that.
Correct.
And he did good things over there. But to say that he is, I guess I just need the definition of what this award is. I until I know exactly what the definition of this award is, I can't really comment on it. But to me, it just seems like, taking a program, now you influxed a shit ton of money in there, regardless of whatever happened. You increased your win total by 3 games, but you increased the college's prize pool by 30 million plus. So, I mean, I guess you could have that. But, I mean, okay, the 3-time is just in here. Sports Illustrated statement. On and off the field, he represents a new model for the modern college coach. We're on to the NFL. Let's talk NFL.
Let's go. Let's talk. Well, we got week 13.
Let's talk NFL. So last night we had the Seattle Seahawks headed into the Dallas Cowboys. Seahawks 35, Cowboys 41. This is what I was talking on the group chat with the boys about. I liked Seattle here. I know I've been on Seattle hit and miss over there. I know Jeffrey is way against Seattle, but he also did think that the 9.5 was an egregious amount. It's one of those games where I feel like Pete Carroll gets his team, so especially when he's playing up in standards, he gets that team ready to go for whatever reason. Geno Smith looked great last night outside of one pass. And then, of course, who caught the interception? Deron Bland once again catches another interception. Of course, Zach Charbonnet goes out because he's on my fantasy team. Jackson Smith-Njigba gets absolutely robbed of a touchdown. To me, the NFL is just an absolute joke. What they put on players to be able to not hit certain people, to be able to stop full force contact, and then catching the ball. I mean, give me a break. It was an absolute great catch by Njigba. His hand was underneath it. The ball did not move to a point where it was uncontrollable. And they take it away from the kid. I tell you what, obviously I had him on my fantasy football team, but that's not the here nor there. I'm just saying, the NFL is just a fucking joke. How about that? It's an absolute joke. We've talked about how many primetime games went under, right? And this year, the theoretical and this vaunted Cowboys defense and gives up 35. And this wasn't a cupcake touchdown or anything of that nature where it went prevent and they just let him go. No, the Seattle Seahawks moved the ball on the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to say at will. And, 35-41. I think the over-under was, 40-something?
48.
48. The Cowboys almost covered that by themselves.
What's so weird, too, is that, so this year so far, when we talk about primetime unders and overs, Thursdays, primetime unders are 6 and 7. And then Mondays and Sundays combined, it's something like 24 and 2. Something like that. Like every Sunday and Monday game has pretty much gone under, and then you're about split on the Thursday night games. So night games historically have gone under the trend. Still. Listen, I thought this game would probably be a close to the over under, right? I didn't expect it to be over in the first half. I thought that was ridiculous.
That was egregious.
That was absolutely crazy. Geno looked great. I think he hurt his elbow. Kind of toward the very end of the game as well.
He took off that protective sleeve again.
And then they, on 4th and 2, the fact that they decide that Micah Parsons, they're just going to let him roll free. And the running back who's supposed to come over and chip slips it to try to get out the screen. It's like, how are you going to – yeah, no punts at all in the game. It's only the 6th time in NFL history, I believe. There's not been a punt in the game. It was just weird. Micah Parsons is a huge man, and you expect Geno to try to throw the ball over top of him to try to get it. He hit one of those earlier in the game.
He did.
Ridiculous.
That ball felt like it was in the air for 10 seconds.
Forever. And it was crazy. Geno was throwing these balls to just open spaces and letting his guys go get it. He caught DK a few times in good one-on-ones when DK won. But if we're going to say anything, listen, I've been very critical of the guy pretty much his entire career. Dak Prescott is playing at an MVP level right now. I want to see what he does the next 4 games, but he has been absolutely unbelievable this year. He's the reason the Cowboys have ticked the way that they have. Their defense has been good. Don't get me wrong. Their defense has been very good. This was a different test. I looked at who they had played at home going into this game, and, it was, the Giants and I think I don't know if the Panthers were in there. But I don't know. It just there was a lot of teams that didn't have great offenses. So listen, they got to shore some things up in the secondary. They got 10 days to fix it. I got nothing but confidence that they can with Quinn over there. So we'll see what happens.
And with that being said, I'm just trying to bring this up real quick. The Dallas schedule moving forward is something to take note of. It is as follows:
Except
Eagles,
yeah.
Bills, Dolphins, Lions, and then the Commanders.
Yeah.
I mean, those 4 games right there are going to be quite the stretch. The stretch. And I think this is what we're going to say. We've talked about the Dallas Cowboys and just playing, this is the first team over 500 that they've beaten this year. We continue to talk about that, being able to do this against good teams. Well, these 4 games will be able to determine if Dallas is for real. And I'm telling you, if Geno Smith is putting up 35 points on that defense, trust me when I tell you, the Eagles, Nick Sirianni, watched exactly what they did. Josh Allen and the Bills watched exactly what they did. I'm sure the Dolphins didn't, because the Dolphins just seem to do their own thing. But, Dan Campbell is going to know that as well. They basically gave them the script there on how to move the ball against. So
it is interesting, though, because if you look at those teams, right, so they'll have the Eagles next week, right? And the Eagles are going to be coming off this Niners game after their stretch. The Eagles just ran the gauntlet, right? Ran the gauntlet, had all these tough games. They're going to get the Eagles then. Where will the Bills be by the time they get there? Let's say the Bills lose this week. Or I think the Bills are on a bye this week. I'm sorry, so they won't. But they'll have a bye to kind of get ready. McDermott, how does he scheme for that? But that's a winnable game too. I mean, the Bills are still a winnable game. And then you talk about the Lions. Like, we're going to talk about the Lions here in a minute. Jared Goff has now had 2 of those games where it's like,
yeah, you're going to have to see some correction at him. I will say though, I think they lose the Eagles and Bills.
So and then the Dolphins, right? The Dolphins just don't beat winning teams. So as much as we put this, there's also a chance where they can come out, perform, and play well. I did pick the Cowboys to win this division. Still holding on to hope for that, but I don't know if that'll happen now. This has a lot to do with it this week. This week was a huge week, and I want to say this: props to you, not for me. But Seattle was fighting for their life last night. They literally came out, and that was like their season, because them losing that game, they have 49ers next week.
They pretty much knocked them out.
Below 500, you're not making the playoffs. That they were all in on that game, and shout out to the Cowboys for making it happen.
Yep.
Really,
I saw a scenario the other day or this morning when I was looking at it. They said there's still a scenario where the Carolina Panthers could host a playoff game.
There is, because we are that bad in the NFC South. Like the Bucks, right? Ian said that thing. It's like the Bucks are 1 game out of hosting a playoff game, or 1 game out of having the 7th pick.
Let's get into that barn burner this
really
week.
Want,
So we do have the Panthers headed into Tampa Bay. Now, this is a game that not only I'm looking at. For those of you who don't know, I am in a Survivor League. There's only 8 people left now. I am one of them, and I am honing in. Go ahead.
You have 1 entry?
I have one entry left.
Okay.
I'm honing in on some picks this week, and
man.
Obviously, there's going to be no better time to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to check them off of my chart than this week, if I decide to take it. Now, we talked about Carolina Panthers coming in here. The Panthers are now all of these odds lines are from the Hard Rock Bet. I know that their lines are absolutely weird. So I mean, you're going to see different lines on the score app and everything. The Hard Rock has this Bucks minus 4.5. Again, I'm not worried about the 4.5. I thought that earlier in the week I told you that I liked the Bucks here if the Bucks were completely healthy. And I'm not talking about Baker Mayfield. I think that it doesn't matter if it's Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. I'm not worried about that portion of it. I'm worried about the defensive portion of it and whether that defense is healthy enough to stop this team. I haven't seen anything that's going to say, yes, I need to take Bucks in Survivor this week. But you had an interesting point about Todd Bowles and what's going on in that locker room. So
it just feels like they've quit on Bowles. there was a lot of things that were said after the game last week, right? Baker Mayfield made a comment about, I'm going to continue to do my job and play as hard as I can. And hopefully I can drag enough people with me to have the same mindset.
Yeah.
And that just, to me, resonates for what this team is right now. The Devin White play where he overruns Gardner Minshew going in for a tackle at the end zone, and Gardner Minshew literally just steps to the side and walks right in. Devin White now I think he missed practice yesterday. We don't know about Levante David. We don't know about Jamel Dean. It's very interesting, right? 2 weeks ago, I go, why would the NFL flex this game from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock?
That was very and bumped the Broncos Texans.
Makes no sense. And then Frank Reich gets fired before this game. That's weird. So now you're going into a primetime 4 o'clock slate with a team that just got rid of its head coach. And they also fired a couple other people as well, too. It wasn't just Reich, right? Like, special teams guy fired, I think, 2 other assistants as well, got rid of. It just seems like this is a Super Bowl spot, get up, win this game for the Gipper. I don't love it.
I don't love it
at all.
I don't like it at all. I think if Frank Reich would still been there, I would have been okay taking Tampa Bay, at least in Survivor.
If Frank Reich was there, Bucks all day. But Frank Reich's not there. And this is a wild card to me that I want no part of. I
will be at this game. So
I thought you put your tickets up for sale.
Dude, there's people selling tickets in my section for $150 below face value. Like,
yeah,
the Bucks. I mean,
nobody's going.
We gotta have solidarity, guys. Solidarity, Bucks fans. I mean, we gotta have solidarity. At least sell them for face value. Come on,
it's a money grab.
It's just like I'd rather, these people are like, I'd rather get $150 than nothing. I'm like, bitch, these tickets are $400 a pop. You're selling them for $150.
Yeah,
I'd rather just go. So I'm gonna go.
If you're in the Tampa area and you're looking for good tickets,
yeah. So it could be as I like to say, the double nut shot, right, where the team loses and I get knocked out of Survivor.
Who do you have in Survivor that are your other options? Do you have the Dolphins?
We'll get to that. Well, as we progress through this, I'll tell you if I have this team available.
Well, we only have 14 minutes because you have an appointment. So
yeah, well, we're going to have to get going. Deuce Staley, the running back coach, and Josh McCown got fired?
Yeah.
I love Josh McCown, bro. Love him.
I love him too, but...
I mean, what does the quarterback coach actually? I mean, okay, whatever. I don't want to talk about those anymore. Broncos Texans. Now, this is the game that we circled earlier in the week, or at least I did, saying that I kind of like the Broncos here, and I picked against the Texans a few times over, and Hard Rock has this at 3.5. However, on our Circa picks, it is only 3. No, it is 3.5. After further review, I just don't like it.
Yeah. So I've listened to a few things, and the Sharps are all over Houston in this game.
Yeah, I just don't like it. I still think Denver has a shot here, but it's just
they had a great D.
This line opened up at Denver plus 3.5. It's got bet down. It's 3. It's 3 on certain. It's 3.5 on the other ones.
Yeah.
We've seen a Denver team that put it together on defense, but we've seen this Houston team, man, that just can move the ball at will when it seems like it wants to. I think this is just going to be one of those. I don't know. I guess
probably a no bet, but it's there's like most of the tickets are on the Broncos, all the money's on the Texans.
Yeah,
one of those situations. So it's like you gotta just one of those ugly games.
Absolutely.
What else did you have that you liked?
So just moving on to the next one, we have the Chargers minus 5.5 against the Patriots. Now this is one that I did look through, and I was like, I love the Chargers here, and then and that's actually who I had for this week's pick to start with. Now, with that being said, this feels to me like something of this Bill Belichick voodoo shit here, where we've seen the Chargers come out and look absolutely great. We've seen the Chargers look absolutely terrible. I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
Justin Herbert did look good against that Ravens defense. However, that was at home on a Sunday night. They didn't win. They didn't cover. It's a weird spot because I had earlier in the year, I had the Bills against the Patriots when the Bills played in New England in my Survivor, and that's what knocked me out. Because the Patriots win the game, and now it looks like it's Bailey Zappi, who has.
Well, it still hasn't even been determined yet. He hasn't said yet.
Yeah,
I don't think it matters. I really don't think it. I really don't think it matters.
He looks more confident than Mac Jones. Mac Jones has lost all.
He's still through the picks as well. I mean, he did. It was kind of like what we're talking about. Oh, you took out Zach Wilson and put in Tim Boyle. Well, guess what? It's the same fucking turd, polished a little differently.
Do we think that this is a Chargers defense? So, do you think the Giants defense is better than the Chargers defense?
On paper, no. From what I've seen, yes.
Yes, right? So you would say yes. It's a close spot. I don't have
it is.
On it.
It is. So moving on, we had the Lions versus the Saints. Lions 3.5 here against the Saints. We have it at 4.5 on Circa.
Yeah, it's a lot.
This is just one, again, I think that we saw a Lions team that has struggled over the past 2 weeks. I don't know which Jared Goff is going to show up until I know.
I hate the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, we went against the Saints a few times here, and we've gotten burned. We've went with the Saints and gotten burned.
They're just like, they're banged up. It's one of those weird games. This is the only thing I'll say, because I do think there's a possibility that the Saints show up here, and it's a Taysom Hill game, and it's a control the clock game. And I also think the Lions will be in a situation where, do we want to let Goff throw it all over the yard again and be in a situation like we were, or do we want to control the clock and just kind of run the ball? When this line opened up, I was like, why is that? That looks so weird. However, a lot of money is coming in on New Orleans on this number. That's why the line has pushed so far down from where we have it at. So we're actually getting good value on it here.
Well, a funny thing here is this line opened up at 3.5.
It got bet up to 4.5, right?
Right.
Yeah, and then Sharps came in and hammered it back down to 3.5.
It's still at 4.
It's 3.5.
It's 3.5 on the Hard Rock.
Yeah.
I feel like this is what happens with the Hard Rock, right? I feel like they adhere to the opening lines, but then they don't adhere to anything else other than what their own money and liability is. So, like, if one big bettor comes in and puts $1 million or something on the 3.5, then they move it to 4. When everybody else still has it at 3.5. It's really weird, man. It's really weird. Like, just like this line right here. It's a full point difference. Like, what? I don't know. Yeah. I feel like the Hard Rock just kind of does their own thing.
You know what this reminds, and I think Dennis Allen sucks as a coach, and I think that Dan Campbell is a way better coach. But what do we see from Jared Goff? He's looked not great the past 2 weeks. Is this a spot where you want to bet on either Derek Carr converting in the red zone, which doesn't happen, or do you want to bet on Jared Goff turning the ball over? It's a weird spot. That being said, this reminds me of the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game that we had earlier in the year, where we're like, we just have to take the number and trust that it's the number. And halfway through the game, we were like, we're so toast. This is over. And then Pittsburgh comes back and wins the game.
Yeah. I definitely think 4.5 is a lot. But then again, we've seen this Saints team not move the ball at all. Have looked absolutely atrocious with Derek Carr. Alvin Kamara has done pretty well here over the past few games. To me, it has nothing honestly to do with New Orleans. To me, it's all about the Lions. If the Lions are back and Jared Goff is playing the way that Jared Goff can play and the way that we've seen him play, this is a 10-point game to the Lions. For sure. But who's showing up? It sucks that we're in week 13 and we're still wondering which quarterback's going to show up.
Yeah.
We should know by now. Dicks.
Some QBs are like that.
Yeah. You know? So next up, we have the Cardinals and Steelers. Now, this is one that I circled from the beginning, and I still like it. I've been on the Cardinals a few times here. They've let me down once. I still like the Cardinals to cover here at minimum. At 5.5. This one opened up at 2.5, by the way.
Tomlin, yeah, it's moved a lot. There's been some injuries on the Cardinals. We got to wait and see. Is Trey McBride going to practice today? I want to see if Wilson practices today. You do have Dortch. Marquise Brown is questionable as well, too. Just a lot of injuries on the Cardinals. I think that's one of the reasons that the line is steamed so far. Also, the Cardinals are like one of the worst teams in the NFL against the run. and the Steelers have this two-headed monster with Najee and James Conner. It just seems like it's kind of the Steelers' year when it comes to the regular season and these wins sometimes too. So it's an interesting spot. What do we have in circa?
5.5.
So 5.5. It's still 5.5 at Hard Rock Bet as well too.
Yeah,
I don't have a great read on it. I might have a better read on it tomorrow.
like I said, I think that Pittsburgh still wins. I just think that 5.5 is just a lot of points for a team that is going to do just like what you said: run the ball, control the clock. Again, we've seen Kyler Murray be able to spread the ball out. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what comes with the injury report here. Falcons headed to the New York Jets. Falcons favored by 2.5 here. We have it at 2 on circa. Again, I just don't know what is happening with this Jets team, man. Does Aaron Rodgers provide the spark? He has come back. He is practicing. I have no idea why this man wants to do it. I don't know who he's trying to prove. Hey, man, prove that you can come back, but please do not suit up in a game. Please do not. I mean, I don't know what they're expecting here. We're rolling out Tim Doyle once again. This Falcons defense has shown up at times. This Jets defense has not shown up at times. I don't know. It's just a shit game. Shit game. And then here we are again talking about which shit team should we bet on.
I really like the shitty Jets, honestly. Yeah. That would be the side that I would pick. You're talking about the Falcons on the road, away from their dome. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be windy. It's going to be cold. It's just.
I would love it if Zach Wilson was playing. I just don't. It's just this
like the Falcons.
This
Falcons
Jets
defense has just given up a ton of yards, and they've gotten very blessed with turnovers in certain spots.
How is this Falcon team versus the run?
I mean, they had two turnovers last week inside the 10-yard line.
How is the Falcons versus the run?
I think they're probably middle of the pack. I haven't looked.
2-time or 2-time. I think
2-time.
I think he lost one. He had some.
All right, let's move on while he looks that up, though.
So next up, we have the Colts Titans. This line is at 1.5 to the Colts. We have it at 1. I feel like this is a tight Vrabel. We're back at home. Tight play. +1.
Yeah, Vrabel.
Book it.
Book it. Will Levis, Colts secondary super banged up right now. Jonathan Taylor obviously out for a few weeks. They're down to Zach Moss and then Trey Sermon after that. One thing that they are good at is going to be against the run. In terms of the Titans, I feel like this is just a Derrick Henry game. Same thing as last week against the Panthers. Control the clock, control the game, keep your defense off the field. And then when they come on, just make sure you bend, don't break. Hold them to field goals. Don't let them in the end zone.
We've seen a fiery Colts team, though, with Gardner Minshew. Obviously, turnovers are a thing with him because he likes to he's a gunslinger, which is what we love about Gardner Minshew, right?
He's been very different at home than on the road. So those splits tell a different story.
Dome versus open, it's always
Absolutely.
We'll see what the weather is like over there.
Dolphins headed Jacksonville. They smoked them.
Dolphins heading to Washington at 9.5-point favorites here. I'll let you speak. Yeah, I don't like this at all.
Hate the spread, but it feels like you're supposed to just take the over here, right? At 49.5, because you're like, oh, Commanders can score, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, okay, Ramsey and also the Dolphins just lost Jalen Phillips for the year, which is a huge injury that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, but he tore his Achilles, done for the year. They were very upset. That was the Jets. They're playing at MetLife. There's a lot of things about that turf that people will say.
Did you hear Aaron Rodgers' comments on that? He addressed that. He's like, there's far shittier fields out there than MetLife. And then who was it? McAfee was like, well, tell us what they are. And he's like, I'm not doing that. No.
I have no read on this game whatsoever. I feel like 9.5 is way too many points, though, personally. Just because there's like backdoor covers that can become involved here. So if I was, because
if we saw what they did against the Raiders, I mean, you would say take the Commanders all day long.
Yeah, it's +9.5, -105 on the Hard Rock Bet app. If you find that on a site that'll allow you to buy a half a point up to 10, and call it a day.
I hate that they don't allow you to do that. Full points. Exactly. Browns headed to Rams with this LA Rams team is absolutely resurgent. They looked just dominant last week. Rams are favored here by 3.5, though. Browns heading in there. Obviously, there's a little bit of quarterback issues still going on with the Browns. Is Flacco going to play?
Yeah, it's Flacco.
It is? He's going to start?
Flacco.
Wow.
That's DTR still not out of concussion protocol.
Oh, I didn't know he was in concussions, so that's probably okay.
Dude, you didn't see the hit last week?
No.
He got. There's been some hits. This was like Sean Taylor Pro Bowl game. Like just got absolutely demolished to the point where he walked off the field. His whole mouth is gushing blood. Concussion, out of the game. Bad look, bad spot. This is interesting. Flacco, can he push the ball down the field? Can they run the ball against the Rams? Flacco goes from, I heard somebody say, raking leaves in his yard in September to now having Aaron Donald run down your throat a month later. It's a weird spot, but, here we are.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. It's like, we talked about this before, people just sitting on the couch.
Really good defense, right? Browns really good defense. The one thing I will monitor, does Myles Garrett play? Myles Garrett doesn't play, then I think McVay will be able to scheme up enough stuff to where the Rams 3.5 is probably a good bet here. If Myles Garrett does play, he is that much of a factor where it would make me either stay away or lean toward the Browns.
Next up, we got the Niners headed back to the Eagles here. 3.5 49ers. It's 3 on Circa. I think this is just one of those games where I would like to say that the Niners win this game, but the Eagles are absolutely humming right now, and they have something to prove. I think it's just going to be a good game. I haven't even looked at it, to be honest with you.
This is going to be one of those games where there's already a lot of noise on both sides. Hassan Reddick saying, "Oh, you guys talked all that shit about if you actually had a quarterback, and the only reason we won is because you were down to your, Josh Johnson, and you have McCaffrey playing quarterback, and so on and so forth." He goes, if that's it, then you come in and you handle business. But you're coming into our house, coming to the link, blah, blah, blah. The 49ers just look unstoppable to me. That defensive line is just so good. Now, the one place that the 49ers do not excel is in their secondary. And they lost one of their top safeties as well. Will Jalen Hurts have enough time to be able to push the ball down the field and exploit that? I don't know. If you looked at the Bills game, especially the first half, the Bills got so much pressure on Hurts that he was just rolling out of the pocket. He had nobody open. He was throwing the ball away. What is San Francisco going to do now? Because the Bills, they have an okay pass rush, but it's not crazy. The Bills are just playing for their lives. Will San Francisco come out with that same kind of fire and emotion in a bounce back spot for them? I don't know. It's going to be a good game. I would love to watch it. I'll be at work, unfortunately, but I would love to watch it. But Marla versus Frank.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see it.
Good times. Last up, we've got the Chiefs minus 5.5 against the Packers. I know. I can only assume I know what it's 5.5. Assume Jeffrey's going to be all over the Packers here. I don't know. Honestly,
it opened up a lot higher than that.
Did it?
Let's see.
Charger. Well, it's at 6 over here. 7.5 is what it started out.
Yeah, it opened at 7.5, and I loved it at 7.5. I was like, yeah, absolutely.
At 7.5, I would even like that.
At 5.5, I'm a little bit more wary. That 6 number is so big as well too. So this is a really good hang by them. I don't know, man. I don't know. Did Kansas City figure it out last week in the second half? They finally scored second half touchdowns against Las Vegas. At the same time, Aiden O'Connell was chopping them up in the first half. Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers were going off. Can Jordan Love, replicate that with 10 days to game plan for with Matt LaFleur? I don't know.
You know what, guys, and I apologize here. Obviously coming back, I'm at a loss right now. I mean, there's a few games that I absolutely loved. I did love the Arizona Cardinals. Now Jeffrey tells me that the whole team is basically hurt. This is going to be one of those weeks where I'm not saying that we're flying by the seat of our pants here. We're obviously going to do our research and make sure that we put those picks out for you on Saturday. But this is going to be a tough week. It's going to be a tough week.
But we still have 24 hours to make our decisions here.
Correct. So and we will put the nose to the grindstone
together for the first time this week because we haven't had a chance to talk through it yet. So this is our first time talking through it. So yeah, we'll figure it out by tomorrow.
And I got to figure out which team I'm going to take in Survivor.
Do you have the Jacksonville Jaguars?
No. Here's who I have.
Please.
Here's the games I could take. I can take the Titans against the Colts.
Okay.
I have Falcons and Jets. I have Cardinals and Steelers. I have Chargers and Patriots. I have Broncos and Texans. I have Panthers and Bucks. I have the Eagles. I have the Rams. I have the Packers. And I have the Bengals. Yes. So,
I tell you what. Let's do this. Because this is what I'm thinking for your Survivor. Wait and see if Myles Garrett's going to play. You should know by end of day today or tomorrow.
There's no way I'm taking the Rams. I will not. No, I will not sleep, dude. I will not sleep. I don't know, dude. This is just a bad week. I really liked. So originally I had the Chargers, and I still think the Chargers win that game. Then I was like, you know what? I could save the Chargers for a little bit down the road. Let me get a bad team out of the way. I can take the Bucks. And then now that they fired Frank Wright, now I'm like, well, shit. I still think the Bucks win, but I don't know, dude. I don't know.
We don't have any passion right now.
And then I know. And then I was like, well, I mean, I could take the Texans, but then it's like, I kind of like the Broncos. I don't know. You know, it's just a bad scenario, man. Bad scenario.
We'll figure it out.
Bad scenario. We'll figure it out. That's for sure. That's going to do it for us for today on the Uninformed Fan. Nice little laid back Friday here episode. We'll be back Monday in full force. Don't forget, be sure to check out our Instagram to follow our Circa picks as well as our Mortal Locks of the week. And I'm giving you a pass on your Mortal Lock last week.
Yeah,
hey, you did that. We could have taken the same one. So I'm actually gonna give Jeff a pass.
That's mine. You just give me a win.
No, I'm just gonna take the loss off the board. I'm gonna give you the 6-4 record there, and we're just going to pass that one up. We were both on that Tampa Bay over, which honestly got a little hairy there for a minute. All those points scored in the third half, and then like 3 points in the third quarter. I was like, here we go. So I'm gonna give you a pass on that one. So yes, make sure to follow up for our Mortal Locks of the week, Circa picks. Maybe I'll even put the Survivor so y'all can sweat with me on Survivor.
Please.
It's gonna be
left.
Huh?
8 left.
8 left. It's gonna be.
No discussions yet about.
I'll ride that shit out, bro.
I know you will, but like, if it was me, I'd be like, anybody want to talk about chopping this for $3K each?
Yeah, I would be like, nah. Give me the whole.
Give me
the whole 16 grand. I like my teams. I had it planned out. Now, when we get a few more weeks into it,
buys this week too that are tough.
When we get a little bit more into it, and the double pick weeks start coming up, I do believe it's in like week 15. You know, then that could be a topic. But you know what? I'm letting it ride.
Happy December to everybody as well too. If you have kids and you have to do the Elf on a Shelf, you know that hell started today. So
welcome to hell, everybody. Have a great week and
be great.
We'll see you there. Go Cardinals. We'll see you then. Please stay out of the left-hand lane.